Revealed, how a black maid's incredible act transformed a billionaire's son's life after his MOM. Henry sat in the grand mansion he once galloped through like a knight, all while his mother's laughter echoed through the halls. Now, the silence was suffocating. At 17, he lived surrounded by opulence, marble floors, lush gardens, golden chandeliers, but it felt like a gilded cage. His mother had filled those spaces with love, teaching him lessons of humility and kindness. After her sudden passing, the teachings turned to whispers in the dark, drowned out by grief. Guilt weighed on him like a dense fog. He missed her every moment. What good was money when the person who mattered most was gone? Rebelling seemed the only way to cope. He tossed expensive bottles of champagne one night and slashed the tires of luxurious cars the next. One fateful afternoon, he took a sledgehammer to a community center that had been a shelter for hope in the lives of many. The righteous anger of a grieving boy morphed into a careless act that shattered glass and dreams alike. Rosa watched from a distance, her heart heavy. A single mom and a dedicated worker, she had recently been laid off from her job due to the economic downturn. She poured her strength into keeping her family afloat, day after day. The community center was her sanctuary, a place where kids learned resilience while enjoying a warm meal. Angry tears filled her eyes when she saw Henry's reckless act. Inside, she felt the collective anguish of her community ripple through her, tightening her chest. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The community rallied against Henry. He'd become the villain in the black and white tale of privilege and struggle. As Rosa stood with other neighbors, the anger in their voices made the air crackle. Fueled by their pain, Rosa felt something bubble inside her, a need to confront him, to make him understand. She couldn't let this go, it was bigger than him. Henry! She shouted one evening, when the air hung heavier than ever. The boy turned to face her, eyes filled with defiance and confusion, but beneath was a flicker of vulnerability. Do you even understand what you've done? Her voice was fierce yet trembling. You've hurt people who have less than you, who rely on this center. Your privilege is blinding you. No amount of money can teach you what you're missing. Something in her words broke through his defenses. The shame felt like a fist to his gut. In that moment, the boy learned that wealth couldn't shield him from the pain he had caused, nor could it bring his mother back. Rosa's challenges mirrored his own heartache, connecting their lives in unexpected ways. As they stood there, two worlds clashed yet intertwined. Henry felt the tightness in his chest loosen, and Rosa saw flickers of sincerity in his eyes. Both were on a precipice, teetering between pathways that could lead to forgiveness and understanding, or to further division. Now, as the heat of the community's fury swirled around them, they stood on the brink of a pivotal community event, the perfect stage for reconciliation or deeper division. Would this be the moment Henry chose to honor his mother's legacy, or would he dissolve back into the shadows of entitlement? Rosa had to decide, should she forgive or fight? What would happen next held the potential to either break their hearts or mend their very souls. The night of the community event was tense. The air was thick with anticipation, a swirl of anger and silent hope. Henry stood at the back of the gymnasium, surrounded by colorful banners and a crowd buzzing with emotions. All the participants wore their best faces, trying to mask their resentment while hoping for a miracle. He could feel the eyes of the community on him, piercing through his carefully cultivated facade. Rosa was suddenly at the forefront of the crowd, her voice ringing out above the murmurs. Tonight, we gather to heal. She proclaimed with conviction, her hands clasped tight around a microphone. This center is not just a building, it's a heart, a lifeline. And what happened to it was an attack on all of us. The crowd erupted into cheers, fists raised in solidarity. Henry's heart sank further. There she was, a beacon of strength, and beside her stood his shattered legacy reflected back at him. The longer he stood there, the more he wanted to flee, but an invisible force kept him rooted to the spot. The guilt of what he had done gnawed at him, a relentless echo of everything he had lost. As Rosa continued to speak, her words ignited a spark within him. We need to come together. We can either remain divided by anger or find a way to rebuild. There was an intensity in her gaze, a challenge thrown directly at him. He felt it like a punch to the gut. With a deep breath, Henry took a step forward. The crowd fell silent, turning to face him as if they had been waiting for this moment all along. I am sorry, he stammered, the words feeling foreign yet vital. I didn't understand what I was doing. I thought I was just bringing some of the chaos in my head out into the world. Grumbles of disbelief ran through the audience, but Rosa silently urged them to listen. I lost my mom too, he confessed, his voice shaking. I didn't know how to deal with the pain, so I acted out. Rosa stepped closer, her expression softening. You're not alone, Henry. We all have pain. But lashing out is never the answer. You have a chance now to change that, to make things right. His heart raced at her unexpected compassion. She was challenging him, pushing him towards redemption instead of retribution. The line between the rich boy and the struggling single mother began to blur. What do I do? He finally asked, the weight of his despair crashing down around him. Help us rebuild the center, she said with a fierce determination. It's the least you can do. And it might remind you of your mother's lessons on kindness. The murmurs of the crowd intensified again, teetering between support and skepticism. Henry hesitated, realizing this was the moment of truth. Could he truly step up? Could he show everyone, including himself, that he was more than just his past mistakes? As he stood there, a million thoughts raced through his mind. What if he failed? The looming shadows of anger and resentment were still thick, and the challenge ahead felt insurmountable. Yet behind that fear was a flickering ember of hope. The community watched him, holding their breaths, waiting for his next move. With a resolve he didn't know he had, he nodded. I'll help. I'll do whatever it takes. Rosa's expression brightened. It's a step forward, Henry. As the crowd erupted in cautious applause, he felt a shift. It was small, but it was there. In that moment, the walls he'd built around his heart began to crack. Could this really be the beginning of transformation, not just for him, but for everyone involved? The question lingered as he stepped closer to the very heart of the community, the place he never thought he could belong. What would it take to gain their trust and forgiveness? And could they truly accept him after everything he had done? The next morning brought a heavy blanket of fog that clung to the buildings. Henry woke up, still feeling the weight of the night before pressing down on him. He rolled over, glancing at the clock, late already. The echoes of applause rang in his ears, but beneath it lay a tension that wouldn't let go. Today was the day he would meet with Rosa and a few others to discuss the community center's rebuilding. He dressed slowly, pulling on a faded shirt that felt too loose, much like his place in the world now. Each piece he put on reminded him of his past self, the boy who had never thought twice about his actions until everything came crashing down. Arriving at the community center, he was met by the sight of a group of neighbors standing by a makeshift table. Rosa waved at him, her enthusiasm infectious despite the serious task at hand. But he could also see apprehension in the eyes of some people, unrest lingering from the night before. As he approached, the tension crackled in the air. Thanks for coming, Rosa said, her smile genuine but softened by the weight of expectation. Thanks for including me, Henry replied, forcing a smile of his own, though it felt shaky. After some introductions, the group dove into conversations about how to reconstruct the center better than before. Old memories of laughter and joy mingled with feelings of loss. Thoughts swirled around, each voice echoing a sentiment of hope, yet each with the palpable fear of failure. Henry listened carefully, trying to absorb everything, aware that his input mattered now more than ever. He was given a task to draft a list of supplies needed. Simple enough. He scribbled down the essentials: paint, wood, tools, a tangible representation of what was needed for their future. But as he wrote, he felt an urge to reach deeper. What if we also included some art supplies? He suggested. The kids loved creating. It could be part of the rebuilding. Rosa's eyes lit up at the suggestion. That's a fantastic idea, Henry. Art can heal. A round of positive murmurs rippled through the group, and for a moment, the air lightened. He felt a flicker of belonging ignite in his chest. But as quickly as it sparked, self-doubt crept back in. As they worked throughout the day, all Henry could think about was how this was his chance not just to help the center, but to show everyone who he could be. He shared stories about his mother and how she believed that community was everything. The others listened, giving him a foothold into their hearts, but when the discussion turned to finances, the room shifted again. "We'll need donations," one man said, worry etched on his face. "Not everyone will be so generous. It's a big ask for a lot of us." Henry felt a pang of reality hit him like cold water. He had money enough to help. But would it be enough? Or would it only serve to create more distance between him and the community he longed to embrace? The laughter and hopeful discussions faded into heavy silence. At that moment, he knew what he had to do. Stepping forward, he gathered himself. "I can contribute," he said with a shaky breath. "I can help fund the supplies." Gasps met his words, disbelief replacing the fragile atmosphere of hope. He could feel every eye in the room drilling into him, assessing, judging. "What are you doing?" A voice behind him whispered, and it felt like an intrusive reminder of the past he was still navigating. But he pushed it aside, choosing instead to look into Rosa's wide, encouraging eyes. "I need to make this right. I won't let you down." As the murmurs swirled, filled with a mix of shock and doubt, a flicker of uncertainty danced in his own heart. Could his actions begin to bridge the chasm? Would he ever be seen as more than the boy who had shattered everything? The question, like a specter, lingered over him, promising both transformation and potential fallout. Henry's heart raced as eyes turned from him to one another, whispers floating through the room like stray leaves caught in the wind. He felt exposed, the air thick with tension and disbelief. But beneath the weight of their scrutiny, he also sensed a flicker of hope. They weren't just looking at him. They were considering the possibility of change, that perhaps he could truly belong again. Rosa cleared her throat, breaking the silence. "It's brave of you, Henry. Thank you for stepping up." Her voice was steady, a lifeline in the sea of doubt. "Yeah, but are you sure you can handle this?" A skeptical voice interjected. It belonged to Mark, a man Henry recognized from the neighborhood meetings but had never really spoken to. The hint of distrust in his tone was like freshly sharpened nails. "Your past doesn't exactly scream community leader." Henry flinched at the words. Memories flashed his past mistakes like a slideshow, bright and glaring. It would be easy to retreat, to let the sting of his guilt swallow him whole. But he couldn't stand back this time. Not when he felt this fire igniting in his chest. "I know," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I've messed up before. I get that. But this is important to me. I want to do better." The truth spilled out before he could second-guess himself. A silence fell again, but this time it was different. It was charged with contemplation rather than judgment. Henry could see the wheels turning in Rosa's mind, and for a brief moment, he dared to believe he was breaking through. "Let's take a vote," Rosa suggested. "If everyone's in favor of Henry's contribution, his ideas and support, let's agree to move forward as a team." Tentative nods began to ripple through the group as they exchanged glances. Henry shifted uneasily, perspiration gathering at the edge of his brow. He had never wanted to be a leader, but perhaps that's what this required, taking charge of his life. Despite the fear clawing at him, as hands began to raise, Henry felt buoyed by a sense of achievement. There were still skeptics, but now there were also supporters. The mix of emotions was overwhelming. It felt like he was standing on the precipice of both failure and success. After the vote passed, tension eased a little. They resumed planning, and Henry found himself energized. Each suggestion he offered came with a rising wave of excitement. Art supplies, a little garden patch, even a mural ideas flowed like a rushing river, washing over doubts and fears. Then someone asked, "When can we get started?" The eagerness in their voices was electric. Henry felt a smile form, his heart swelling at the notion that they were willing to dive in together. After hours of discussion, they wrapped up the meeting. As people began to leave, he caught Rosa's eye. She smiled warmly at him. "You did great, Henry. I can see the change in you." "Thanks, Rosa. That means a lot," he replied, each word buoyed by sincerity, a reward for his hard-won effort. Walking home, he felt lighter. The fog that had felt so suffocating that morning was lifting. He had caught a glimpse of what was possible, a chance to rewrite himself a little more each day. The thought made him giddy, but then his mind drifted to the lingering shadows of doubt. Would he actually be able to pull through? Could he truly be trusted? Each step felt heavy with the weight of both hope and uncertainty. Then it hit him like a slap to the face. His past would always be there, hovering just out of reach. If he truly wanted to belong, he had to confront it head-on. A rush of determination flooded him. He would speak to the people he had wronged. He would face the ghosts of his past, but perhaps even more daunting, he would seek out the secrets buried within, secrets that not only shaped his past but could also illuminate his future. But first, he needed to figure out how to gather the courage to take that step. The road ahead loomed large, but he couldn't shake the feeling that with every action forward, he could bring the community closer and maybe himself too. What would he learn when he faced those from his past? Would they see the growth, or would he forever be trapped in the echoes of the boy who had broken everything? The next morning, sunlight filtered through the window, casting a warm glow that crept across Henry's bed. He lay there, eyes wide open, battling thoughts that swirled like mist in the early hours. The vote had been a triumph, but what came next felt daunting. Confronting his past weighed heavily on his heart, each beat resonating with doubt and fear. As he swung his legs over the side of the bed, he felt the chill of the wooden floor beneath his feet. He took a deep breath, searching for courage as he glanced at the family photos on the wall. Each smile reflected moments of joy, the laughter echoing across years that felt both close and distant. Could they understand the turmoil he felt? Did they see him as he was now, or as the boy who had made 1,000 mistakes? At breakfast, his mother poured him a cup of coffee, her eyes soft with concern. "You're quiet today, Henry. What's on your mind?" He hesitated, the words clawing at his throat. "I have to face people I hurt, Mom. I want to make things right, but I'm scared." Her hand found his, warm and reassuring. "You've come a long way. Just remember that change doesn't happen overnight. It's the little steps that matter." A knot in his stomach loosened slightly at her words. He remembered the vote, the support from the community, and the flicker of hope that ignited within him. He needed to keep that feeling alive as he ventured out into a world that might still hold resentment. After finishing breakfast, Henry grabbed a notebook, the pages filled with ideas for the community project. He needed specifics: who he would talk to first, the words he wished to express. He walked to the park, where children laughed, and the sound reminded him of brighter days. He sank onto a bench under a sprawling oak tree. As he scribbled notes, his mind wandered to Lucy, the woman he had wronged the most. Her face, lined with disappointment the last time they had crossed paths, haunted him. He remembered how small she seemed when he had let her down. The weight of her trust crumbling beneath him had stung more than he realized. Confronting her was necessary. He wouldn't shy away anymore. His hand froze over his notes when he saw a familiar figure approaching, a tall man with a stern expression. Tom, one of the guys from the old crew. Memories rushed back of the nights spent laughing and getting into trouble. Henry felt his heart begin to race. "Don't know you around here much anymore," Tom said, crossing his arms. Yeah, well. I've been trying to turn things around, Henry replied, the words coming out more robust than he felt. Tom evaluated him, and silence loomed heavy between them. You messed up big, Henry. You think just saying sorry will fix everything? People remember. I know, Henry said, taking a step closer. I'm here to make amends. That's what I've got to do. Not just talk about it, but actually try. The surprise flickered across Tom's face before being replaced by a cool stare. Good luck with that. You have a long road ahead. As Tom walked away, Henry felt a mix of anger and resolve. He couldn't allow himself to retreat into his past. He pulled the notebook closer, a sense of urgency igniting inside him. He started writing. Lucy, Mark, and the others he'd hurt, would they let him apologize? Would they even listen? His heart raced as he penned each name down and outlined what he wanted to say. Each name carried its weight, and with every stroke of the pen, he felt lighter, taking a profound step toward redemption. The sun slid lower in the sky, casting long shadows as he made his way home, determination boosting his steps. But lurking just beneath the surface was an undeniable fear. What if his heartfelt apologies fell flat? He had to know. Henry would confront the shadows not just of his past, but also the realities of his present. Tomorrow, he would start with Lucy. Would facing her allow them both to heal, or would it push them further apart? Only one way to find out. The next day dawned bright and clear, but Henry felt as if a storm brewed within. The weight of uncertainty clung to him, making every step feel heavier. He had barely touched his breakfast. How could he? His mind was tangled up in what lay ahead. Lucy. Could he face her after all this time? The thought sent shivers down his spine. By the time he reached the cafe where they had shared their last conversation, his heart raced with a mix of fear and hope. The place was familiar yet strange, each corner a painful reminder of laughter now laced with regret. He had chosen this spot, knowing it was where Lucy often came to escape, to find comfort among the clinking cups and muted conversations. Stepping inside, he scanned the room, anxiety creeping in. There she was, seated at their usual table, reading a book that he had once borrowed from her. Her hair fell softly over her shoulders, and for a moment, he felt the warmth of their shared past wash over him. But then, the doubt returned. Would she even want to speak with him? Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, each stride feeling like a leap into the unknown. The noise around him faded as he approached. When she looked up, the recognition flashed across her face, but it quickly transformed into a guarded expression. Henry, she said, her voice a combination of surprise and hesitance. What are you doing here? He faltered, the words catching in his throat. It felt like 1,000 sentiments collided. Regret, longing, guilt. I wanted to talk to apologize. Lucy's brow furrowed, disbelief etched across her features. You think that's enough? Just showing up to say sorry? No, I don't. I know an apology isn't enough, but I'm trying to make it right. I need you to know just how sorry I am for everything, how I hurt you. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire, both of them caught in the moment. The cafe hummed around them, oblivious to the emotional storm that was brewing at their table. Lucy looked down, her fingers tangling nervously in the pages of her book. You have no idea how that felt, do you? You walked away, and I was left to pick up the pieces. Her words struck him deep. He remembered the moment he had chosen his own path selfishly, without thinking about how it would crush her. I've thought about that every day since how I failed you. You deserved better than I gave you. Finally, she glanced up, her eyes searching his, a mixture of pain and hope flickering behind them. You think saying sorry will fix it? You think time just makes everything disappear? I don't expect forgiveness overnight. I want a chance to show you I've changed. I'm trying to be a better person. For a moment, he feared she would turn away, that he had made too many mistakes for too long. But then, a small, vulnerable sigh escaped her, and Henry's heart raced at the sound. Would she entertain the possibility? The weight of the past hung heavy, but within that tension, hope flickered like a candle about to ignite. Henry found himself leaning in, pouring his heart into what he hoped would bridge the gap between them. "Lucy, please let me show you that I can be better. Let us talk. Just give me this chance." As her expression softened, a flicker of something shifted in the air around them. Hope? Fear? He didn't know. But every moment felt monumental, as if the world had paused, granting him the time he needed to find his way back to her. But they were still standing on shaky ground, and uncertainty loomed larger than ever. And as Henry waited for her response, he couldn't help but wonder, was his past too heavy for her to bear, or was this the beginning of their long-awaited healing? Only time and Lucy's next words could tell. Lucy's gaze held his for what felt like an eternity. Henry's heart thudded loudly in his chest, a synchronized echo of hope and dread. Every breath he took felt weighty, filled with the unspoken words and emotions he had bottled up for too long. "I want to believe you," she murmured finally, her voice a soft tremor. "But it's hard, Henry. It's so hard." He felt a spark of warmth at her words, the smallest glimmer of possibility. Maybe they weren't as lost as he feared. "I understand. I know I have a lot to prove, but I'm willing to try. I promise to listen this time. Whatever you want to say, I'm here. No more running away." For an instant, recognition crossed her face, and he could see a battle happening behind her eyes. There was anger, sadness, but also a flicker of the Lucy he once knew, the one who made jokes about the absurdities of life and laughed until her eyes shone. "I don't want pity, Henry," she finally replied, her tone steadier now. "What I need is honesty. No more half-truths. Can you handle that?" "Yes," he replied without hesitating. "I'll lay it all out. I owe you that much." As they sat together, surrounded by the cafe's buzz, it felt as if they were suspended in their own quiet space. Henry started to talk, sharing moments of vulnerability, things he had never expressed before. He spoke of his regrets, about leaving town and burying himself in work, thinking that if he drowned in his obligations, the pain would simply fade. His words flowed freely as he tried to untangle the years spent apart. Lucy listened. Her expression shifted from skepticism to cautious interest, and for the first time in a long while, Henry felt he was making progress. When she finally spoke again, her voice was trembling, not from anger, but something softer, almost hopeful. "I felt so alone after you left. I thought we could have been something. I thought." She took a breath, gathering courage. "I thought that you chose your career over me." "I did choose a path," he admitted, pain slicing through his heart. "I thought I was doing what was right for both of us. But it was a coward's choice, Lucy. I see that now." He reached across the table, hesitantly, and touched her hand. It felt electric, a spark of connection. "I see it all too clearly now." Lucy's breath caught, and he felt her shudder slightly under his touch. "I had to learn to live without you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do." Henry squeezed her hand, grounding both of them. "And what if we don't have to live without each other anymore? What if we start over? Together?" This time, Lucy didn't pull away. "You really think we can just erase everything?" she asked, eyes searching his for sincerity. "Not erase. Move forward. Together. I realize it won't be easy, but what if we took it one step at a time?" Before she could respond, a loud crash from the kitchen area startled them, a waiter scrambling to pick up the shattered remnants of a plate. A few heads turned, glancing with curious sympathy toward the commotion. But for Henry and Lucy, the only noise that mattered was the beat of their hearts and the weight of unspoken words lingering between them. Henry felt the tension ease slightly. They had begun to talk about it, to confront the past. Was this the moment everything could change? Could a fresh start be on the horizon? As they sat there, a new thought settled in Henry's mind, an idea that maybe their healing would be harder and more beautiful than he ever expected. What if he started, his voice barely above a whisper, what if we take a chance and face this together? What could lay ahead, if they dared to step beyond the familiar pain? Would they uncover something stronger than their fears, or would it only lead to more heartbreak? Lucy took a deep breath, her eyes narrowing slightly as she considered his words. Facing it together, she repeated, tasting the phrase like it was something new. It felt foreign and frightening, but there was a thrill running through her, too. What would that even look like? Henry leaned in, desperate to bridge the chasm that had formed between them. It starts with honesty, right? You deserve that. Every moment I spent away from you, it haunted me. I was running away from myself, too. But if we start being real with each other, I think we can handle whatever comes next. What if it's more than just talking, though? Lucy's voice trembled. She pulled her hand back slightly, her expression a mix of uncertainty and curiosity. What if we face our feelings? What if we have to confront all that hurt? I get it, he said, nodding slowly. This isn't just about patching things up. There's real history in the cracks between us. We can't ignore that. But if we can talk about the hard stuff, maybe it can also lead to healing. You and me. We both deserve a shot at happiness, whatever that looks like. The cafe felt brighter somehow, infused with a flickering hope that had been absent for so long. Lucy searched his face, trying to read the sincerity in his eyes. And what if I can't let go of the past? What if I can't forgive you? Or even myself? Then we tackle that too, he said firmly, feeling a surge of determination. No more running. Just facing it all. It's the only way we can figure out where we stand. Her expression softened slightly, as if the very idea of working through it brought back memories they'd once shared, moments filled with laughter, solace, but always shadowed by the fear of losing each other. I don't want to go through that alone again, Henry. The vulnerability in her voice rocked him. You won't have to. I promise. Just then, the waitress approached their table, interrupting the delicate moment. Can I get you two anything else? She asked, her tone light. Just the check, please, Henry replied, reaching for his wallet. The waitress nodded and hurried away, but it pulled Henry back to reality. He didn't want to rush things. Let us take our time with this. Grab coffee next week? Or a walk? Something easy. We can talk more about us. If that feels okay? Lucy hesitated, swirling her thoughts like coffee in a cup. Okay, I like that. As they finished their drinks in an unexpected moment of silence, Henry's heart continued to race. He had a glimmer of hope, a flicker that maybe they'd get their chance at something real again, but just as a soft smile crept onto Lucy's lips, her phone buzzed. The smile dimmed as she glanced down, brows furrowing. I need to take this. It's my mom. Of course, he nodded, feeling a pang in his chest. The connection felt so fragile, and now it was briefly suspended again. She stood up, one hand still holding her phone, the other brushing her hair behind her ear as she stepped aside. Henry watched her move, his heart heavy with both longing and uncertainty. Would this truly lead to something meaningful, or would outside forces continue to pull them apart? What awaited them on the other side of their emotional walls? For a moment, Henry felt alone at the table again, knowing that every decision from here on out would shape their journey together or apart. As Lucy ended the call and turned back toward him, her eyes shimmering, he couldn't shake the nagging question. Would they seize this moment, or would the ghosts of their past continue to haunt them? Lucy returned to the table, her expression shifting between urgency and relief. Sorry about that, she said, settling back into her seat. But something felt different, almost charged in the air. The weight of the conversation lingered, and the soft hum of the cafe faded into the background. It's okay, Henry replied, searching her eyes. Everything all right? She nodded slowly, biting her lip. Yeah, just family stuff. You know how that can be. But Henry could see it in her eyes, there was more than just that. The familiar shadow of worry crept across her face, and he couldn't help but wonder what else was burdening her. Lucy, he began, leaning forward. If there's something weighing you down, something we need to talk through, you can share it with me. Her gaze fell to the table, fingers tapping nervously on the surface. It's just, my mom and I don't have the easiest relationship. We've both said things, done things that hurt. And now? Now, with everything that has happened, it feels like pressures are building. I need to sort through that before I can really face us. His heart sank a little. He had hoped that by tackling their issues, they could rebuild sooner rather than later. But as he watched her, he realized how deeply intertwined their stories were. It's okay to take your time, he said softly. Just know I'm here for you, no matter what. Lucy smiled faintly, gratitude flickering in her eyes. Thank you. It helps to know you're willing to listen. As the waitress returned with the check, Henry mindlessly slid his card across the table, his thoughts still swirling on how to help her. The whole situation felt fragile, like balancing on a tightrope. Once the transaction was complete, he glanced out the window, the bright autumn leaves dancing in the wind. It reminded him of changed nature's way of shedding the old for something new. He wondered if that could apply to them too. Do you want to do something fun next week? He asked, attempting to lighten the mood. Maybe a hike? Get out and breathe a little. Lucy's eyes softened. I'd like that. To be somewhere peaceful away from everything. That sounds perfect, he said. And, I promise not to trail behind like a lost puppy this time. She chuckled, and the sound warmed him. It felt good to see her smile, even if it was tinged with uncertainty, but just as the moment started to feel lighter, her phone buzzed again, slicing through their fragile bubble. I should probably check this, she said, a flash of regret crossing her features. He nodded, settling back as she answered. He could already feel the distance creeping back in. Listening to her voice, he became aware of a reality that felt more and more complicated. It was hard not to view her phone calls as barriers, moments when she slipped from his reach back into a world of obligations and expectations he could not penetrate. As she ended the call, her brow furrowed with worry yet again. I gotta deal with a few things. Not just Mom, but the family business, Lucy, he said gently. You're okay, right? I can wait for you. Just say the word. Her eyes met his, a mix of vulnerability and strength. I'm okay, Henry. I just need time to figure things out. Time. It felt so bittersweet. He wanted to dive into the depths of their conversation, but the clock continued to tick, forcing their encounter into a more complex dance of emotions. Can I ask you something? She ventured, her voice softening. Do you think we're strong enough to face everything we've put off? To dive into the mess together? His heart thundered in his chest. Would they be strong enough? He let out a deep breath, realizing how badly he wanted to believe they could be. Together? I hope so. But we'll never know unless we try. Her expression shifted, as if she understood the gravity of what lay ahead. For a moment, the din of the cafe slipped away, leaving just the two of them, two people standing on the brink of something that could change everything. As they locked eyes, a new question formed in Henry's mind. What would it take to face their past and truly move forward? Lucy broke the gaze first, her fingers playing endlessly with the napkin. For now, let us take it one step at a time. Just promise me, whatever comes next, we keep talking about it. I promise, he replied, but an unsettling thought gripped him. Would the path ahead bring them closer, or would it push them apart forever? As they sat together, a fragile alliance forming through their shared fears and hopes, the truth loomed larger than either of them could grasp. What awaited them once they began peeling back the layers? The days turned into weeks, and the air between Henry and Lucy buzzed with uncertainty but also with hope. Each meeting, every shared coffee and hike, felt like stepping deeper into a river that flowed with promises of healing. Together, they began to explore the raw edges of their hearts, confronting shadows they had long avoided. It was exhausting yet exhilarating. Every tear, every laugh brought them closer to the kind of truth that mattered. Henry found new joy in their shared moments. He could see the cracks beginning to mend, not just in their relationship but in himself. The mischievous glint in Lucy's eyes returned, and slowly he felt her walls soften. They spoke openly, sharing their frustrations and fears, weaving between the light-hearted banter and the deeper, meaningful conversations that each took a little more courage to explore, but with every step forward, the past loomed in the corners of their discussions. Henry often caught himself thinking of the hurt he had caused, of the people affected by his reckless past. During those quiet moments, doubt sometimes crept in, questioning if he could ever truly atone for his actions. Rosa had also become part of their journey. After Henry's initial efforts to support the community center, she had taken him under her wing, showing him the faces behind the names he now recognized as friends. Together, they embraced the challenge of rebuilding, transforming the space that had once shattered dreams into a sanctuary of hope. One day, as Henry stood painting a wall at the center, the vibrant colors symbolizing growth and renewal, he felt a new surge of determination. Perhaps he could do more, not just for the center, but for everyone he had wronged, including Lucy. It was the perfect moment to confront the shadows once more. "Rosa," he called, spotting her mixing paint nearby. Her familiar smile made him feel instantly at ease. "Yeah?" she asked, brushing a stray hair from her face. "I want to help beyond just funding and rebuilding. There are people I've heard in this community. I need to face them. Could you help me organize a community meeting? A chance to apologize and plan together?" His heart raced as he waited for her response. She paused, pondering his words. "That's brave, Henry. It's going to be hard. But I believe you can do it." The meeting was set for next week. As the date approached, dread and determination fought for space inside him. He prepared himself for the conversations he needed to have, knowing that forgiveness wouldn't come easy, but also believing that honesty did bring hope. The day finally arrived. The gymnasium buzzed with familiar faces, a mix of skepticism and curiosity evident in the air. Henry stood at the front, his heart hammering as he brought the room to stillness. "Thank you all for coming. I know I've hurt many of you, and I'm here to take responsibility for my past. To apologize." Voices began to murmur, a palpable tension crackling across the room. The emotion weighed heavily, but he pressed on, pouring his heart onto the floor. He spoke of his choices and how they reflected his internal chaos. He shared how grief had clouded his judgment and how hollow living in a gilded cage had left him. "I'm sorry," he said, tears that had long been held back threatening to spill over. "I want to do better, to handle my responsibilities. I want to earn back the trust I've lost." The silence that followed felt like a storm waiting to break until Rosa stepped forward. "Henry's actions may have hurt us, but we also have the power to heal together. Let us share what we can do as a community moving forward. Everyone's voice matters." Encouraged by her words, others began to speak, some expressing their hurt. Others shared moments of understanding, as if they too had felt the weight of regret in different forms. By the end of the meeting, the spectators transformed into participants eager to rebuild. Henry felt grateful tears form as he looked around. The warmth of acceptance began to melt the icy grip of his past. He locked eyes with Lucy, their connection feeling stronger than ever in the midst of this honest exchange. She stepped forward, giving him a faint smile that seemed to say she understood his journey. In that moment, Henry realized this was no longer about mere redemption, it was about creating a future filled with hope. Together, they were stronger. Weeks passed, and slowly the community center transformed into a hub of creativity and resilience. All of it seemed wrapped in layers of gratitude, memories, and laughter. Lucy often joined Henry, brainstorming projects, and those moments felt like a dance of healing. One sunny afternoon, as they painted colorful murals on a newly built wall, Henry turned to her. "You never hesitated to believe in me." "Thank you," he said, genuine admiration reflecting in his eyes. Lucy paused, brushing her hands on a rag, her expression softening. "I see you trying, Henry. And that matters more than you realize. I think both of us are learning, piece by piece." As sunlight shimmered through the windows, glinted off freshly painted walls, and filled the space with warmth, Henry understood that healing was not about perfection but about taking simultaneous steps toward becoming better. It was about building bridges instead of walls. The journey ahead would still hold uncertainties, but now he faced it with a newfound strength. Together, they were working their way toward something far brighter than the past, a promise of community where everyone belonged and grew, understanding each piece of brokenness could still hold a possibility of beauty. Henry cherished the transformation they had all embarked upon. This is the moment to build connections, embrace healing, and remember that together, we can overcome anything. So, if you felt moved by this journey from grief to hope, it's time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you to transform your own life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because your support truly matters. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending, what resonated with you most, and please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share your love for this journey.